Rishona, are you ready?
Yes, I sure am.
Okay. Hello everyone. Today, the last session for today is by Rishona Elijah from Powerhead Solutions, and she will present the more deep dive session about the Power Virtual Agents. And the title will be like creating a no-code chatbot. Over to you.
Thanks so much. And just in the meantime there, I got to switch my background to something that looks on point with the bots. Thank you to Troy who went before me on the great session, and it also is a good lead into what I'm about to show you guys. So let me just go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so welcome. This is the last session that we have for today. So hopefully you guys are excited for this one. I'm going to be taking you through an introduction into Power Virtual Agents. If it's the first time that you're seeing all of this, hopefully it interests you to want to go and explore after this as well. And I got to say, virtual agents, it's probably my favorite topic to do at the Power Platform. I think it's quite easy to get into, and there's quite a bit of fun that you can have with this as well. So a bit about me. My name is Rishona Elijah. I'm coming to you from Sydney, Australia today. So I work as a Power Platform trainer and evangelist. So I run training and events around the Power Platform and things like Power Virtual Agents to show people what they can do with this technology. And I work at Barhead Solutions. So with that said, I'll go over and I'll just show us what I had planned for today. I'll just start off by giving us an overview into Power Virtual Agents. Also, we'll then go into some use cases so you can start to get some ideas on how you can use this stuff and what you might want to build following today. Then how we actually go and get started. I'll give us a demo on a bot that I've built so we can take a look at and see how that was made. And then my favorite bit is what we can then do with Power Automate to bring that into it. Oh, and thanks, Lynn, for putting my LinkedIn and Twitter there. I'm surprised you found me on Twitter. I've been meaning to post more often, so I promise I'll be more active on Twitter soon. But yes, you can reach me on LinkedIn and connect with me there as well. And yeah, so we'll talk about Power Automate, what we can do with that. I have some cool things to show you. In the chat before, I posted a demo of a bot that you can try that I've done that calculates your weight on Mars. So I'll also show us a bit about that one after as well. And then I'll touch on a bit about the Power Virtual Agents app we can get for Teams, and then how you can go ahead and get started with all of this. So let's go. So first off, I'll just sort of take us through an overview of what Power Virtual Agents is, what is the benefit that we get from this product. So actually, it was earlier, I think this week, I saw on LinkedIn that Power Virtual Agents was actually celebrating its second birthday, which I thought was kind of cute. So it is the newest tool that we have on the Power Platform. And in my opinion, and probably yours as well, it is actually the easiest, I think, to pick up, start using, and start to build your stuff out with this. So we have these easy to create chatbots that we can do with PVA. You don't need to come, of course, from a coding or a developer background to do all this. I was even doing this with my 4-year-old niece the other day. So, no technical skills required. It's easy for anyone to pick up and start using. Your bot that you build can engage naturally. So of course, it's not a human on the other end, but it's not going to sound completely robotic either. People and your end users can talk to your bot as if you were just talking to, your colleague or something in natural language, and the AI is able to pick up on that and present the results to you that you need. It's more than just a basic Q&A chatbot that you can do. So we can bring in Power Automate for whatever actions or things that you want your bot to do. So that GIF that I have going there off the Furby picture is actually done using Power Automate. That one is calling a picture that you want your bot to return. So I'll show us a bit about that flow if you're interested in trying something like that out. And then, of course, with our virtual agents, we have a range of channels that we can then publish it out to. So Teams is probably the main one and probably the one you'll be using most often. But it can also go, of course, on your website, custom mobile app, and I'll show you the channels that we have in a bit. So we can start to get some ideas on ways that we can use this to get you guys thinking. I'll just go through some use cases that you can think about. So the bot you build can be internal, perhaps for your employees and your colleagues to interact with, like something you have on Microsoft Teams that people can go and talk to and ask questions about. Or external, your customers or any other anonymous or third-party person to interact with. So some great ideas if you're thinking about making something internal for your employees. We've seen this used quite often for scenarios like having a HR chatbot, perhaps where someone can go ask those standard questions that you get, people, can I take leave today? When's the next public holiday? You can use Power Virtual Agents to automate all that, so you don't need people running to your HR manager all the time to ask these common things. Logging tickets, for things like IT support, rather than sending an email, typically how people do it, you could have a bot there that users can ask your common IT questions about, and then even use the bot to escalate it from there to a person or a team, whoever handles it. Of course, it can be used for data entry, typing in something, it then gets sent off to another system that you use. You can use it as a calculator, like that demo that I posted in the chat there. Approvals or any other workflows that you might have that you want to automate with the bot. Then if we look at some external scenarios, most often this would be used as an FAQ, perhaps on your website for your customers and your visitors to go and ask. Booking appointments, you can use it to automate all that. I know this is probably the most popular way I've used a bot myself. So, you go on a hairdresser website, and then rather than picking up the phone and checking if they're available, you can just use the bot to automate all that and book your appointments. Self-service, so giving people the opportunity to find their own answers rather than calling an agent to ask about it. Surveys, lead generation are some other great ideas as well. So over here, we have what channels are available to us for you to deploy your bot. So the two that I've highlighted here are Microsoft Teams and the demo website, because especially if you're just getting started with this, you don't need any additional licensing if you want to use either of these channels. These other ones that we have here, like your own custom website, mobile app, Facebook, and so on, that's when the premium licensing will kick in. But good news, if you're a Teams user, you can build your bot and deploy it to Teams just included on your Teams license. If you build something for fun that you want to share with your colleagues and your friends, you can even just post it to a demo website where people can interact with the bot. So this is how we can go ahead and get started now. So there are two ways that we can go and build our bot. There's the usual web URL, which is the website we go to Power Virtual Agents, or we can also build these directly in Microsoft Teams. But the one I'll focus on for the main part of today will be from the typical website that we go and build this all out. So over here, I'm going to go and open up Power Virtual Agents, and we'll take a look. So this here, it's our PVA, where we do all our building. I'll just show us a bit around so we can get familiar with what we're looking at. So over here, we have this test bot pane. We can go and test it out. Oops, caps lock is on. So we can see how it's been performing from there. Over here in the topics area, these are the different scenarios that we have set up for our bot to handle. So each topic is going to have its own conversation tree that we built. And this is really where we model the conversation. So depending on what things people are going to come to our bot to talk about, we'll create a topic for that. So we can see here, we have this one that I created called Inspection Inquiry, which is one that I'll demo in a bit. There are also these lessons, which are the default ones that are in there. You can take a look at them to get an idea to see how they're getting built. But then we also have these system topics, things like the greeting, end of conversation. These ones we can't turn off, but we can customize them as we want. So for example, our bot will come with a standard greeting in there, kind of like how I said hello before. This also helps with giving your bot its own personality because we can customize the greeting message and any of these other messages it's going to send. So if someone comes to the bot, says hello, you can change up how it interacts and type in your own custom message that you would want here. You can make something on point with your branding as well, of course. Over here, I'm just going to open up one of the topics that we have. So I'll go into more detail about this stuff in a moment. But essentially what we have to start off with is that we have our topic name, and then we have our trigger phrases. Oops, I switched a bit over there. So our trigger phrases are the things that our end user, our customer, what we're expecting them to say to direct them to this conversation. Then, of course, we have the authoring canvas, which is where the action is all going to happen and where we build out the conversation tree for our bot. So we can see we have our trigger phrases, and then we have what we call nodes. So in this case, we have some questions. At a question, we also have some conditional branching built into this. So depending on the response from the end user, the conversation is going to go a different way. And we can manage all this within the topic that we've created. Then further down, we've come to a point where it all meets up again, and then finally the conversation ends. Each of these things, like our questions, our conditions, our messages, we call these nodes that we can add. And it's done simply just by adding a node within the conversation tree somewhere. So if you want to ask a question, that's where we're expecting some response back from the user and some information that we want to collect from them. We can do that. We can set what type of information we want to pick up on, which I'll explain a bit more in a bit. We can also add a message, perhaps if just, we want to make a statement like we have here. Call and action is where we can bring some Power Automate flows into this, and I'll show us a bit about that later on. We can also then send it off to another topic too, if we want to. Then, of course, at the end, we can also do things like end the conversation. At any point, we can redirect it to a live agent as well. So these are all different types of nodes that we can add in to make the conversation flow. Our entities area are things that we set up or that the bot has already been set up with that it's trained to identify. So things like if I was to type in a color, my bot can recognize that as an end user, I've typed in a color and can pick up on that. Or things like an email address, a language, money, a number, and so on from there. The analytics area is where we can go and get some insights to see how our bot has been performing. So here we can go in, we can get some feedback on how many people or how many sessions has our bot engaged in, and also what's the performance been. Are there particular topics that aren't going too well? Are people dropping off from the conversation? We can get all these insights from the analytics area. Over in Publish is where we can pick where we want to deploy our bot. And you can even change some other things in the Manage tab. So, if you want to give your bot a name or rename it, give it its own custom icon as well, we can make these kinds of changes from here too. So typically when we're building out our bot, this is the process that we'll go ahead and follow. So step one, we go into virtual agents and we create the bot. I just realized I should have pointed that out as well. So over here, when you go in, you have your environments that we can pick from, and simply you can just pick new bot, give it a name and a language, and it's good to go. You can have more than one bot in an environment as well. So perhaps if you wanted to make one for each different language or different, just, something in general that it's set up for, you can create more than one from here. So once we've created our bot, it's then our job to go ahead and create the topics that we want our bot to engage in. So if we're creating maybe a HR chatbot, we might set up a topic related to leave requests or finding out public holidays, for example. And then for each topic, we can go ahead and construct the conversation as we need. Once we've done that, most importantly, we want to test it out to see if it's performing as it should. We can even do something like publish it to the demo website. So then we can get people using it, throwing questions at it to see if it's interacting the way that we want it to. Lastly, once it's ready to go, we can publish it and pick the channels. And as people are using it, we then get that feedback on its performance that we can see in the analytics area. That then gives us insights on things that we can go ahead, edit the bot, improve it, or even go and make some new topics to make the bot handle some more things as well. So looking here, what is in our bot, like we just briefly covered just then. So we have our bot. Within that, we have our topics, the system topics, things like greeting, escalation that come pre-built for you. And then you can make as many user topics as you need. So these are the different scenarios your bot is going to be made up to handle. Each topic has its own conversation tree. And then the next level down is that each conversation tree has its own set of trigger phrases, entities, and flows that we can connect to it over using Power Automate. Just to go into a bit more detail about all this stuff, the next part I'll talk about is just a bit more around the concept of topics, entities, variables, and slot filling. But before that, there's something else that you can do as a way to build your conversations. So there's this topic suggestions feature over in Power Virtual Agents. I'll bring it up actually. So this one here, this is a fast way to get all your content in. I mean, rather than going ahead and creating all your FAQ from scratch, this allows you to just grab a link. It might be from your FAQ, the FAQs that you have on your website. You can just grab the URL. If you have any files hosted online, like a PDF or a Word doc, you can grab the URL and stick it in there. So what that does, in this example, I've put in the URL of Luna Park, Sydney, which is a theme park that's based here in Sydney. Over here, it is this is what their FAQ page looks like. So this is, for example, what we want to then extract and put into our bot. By the way, it doesn't work for every format of FAQs, so don't get too sad if you try it out on your website and it doesn't work, because there have been a lot of times I've tried it and it doesn't. But I think about 50% of the time, depending on what the format is of your FAQ page, it works really well. And it's a fast way to get this stuff going and get it all in your bot. So then what happens is the AI is doing its work, and it can now create a topic based on each FAQ that was there. So you can see here, it's created this trigger phrase, what happens if it rains? It's then posted the answer for us as a message, which we can then immediately go and add into our list of topics. But of course, we would probably want to go and edit it, make it sound a bit more user-friendly and bot-friendly, make it maybe a turn-based conversation. We can go and edit it to change it up and make it interact a lot nicer with a person from there. Then this leads us into the topic of entities now. And these are things that your bot has been trained or that it knows to identify. Over in virtual agents, there are these pre-built entities like you can see listed here. US cities, colors, countries, time, email addresses. So, perhaps if in a conversation, you're expecting your end user to tell you maybe their email address. The bot is then able to recognize what the email address is in the end users, whoever posted the message, in their message, really. You can create custom entities as well. So, perhaps if you work at a shoe shop and you're selling shoes, you could create an entity that identifies all the types of shoes that you sell. So as someone goes to the bot and asks about a type of shoe, the bot then knows that this is what the person was talking about and then can direct the conversation from there. So following that, we then have variables. So your variables are the exact answer or response that your end user or your customer gave to you. So if I'm talking to the bot and it asks me for my name, I type in my name. That's the entity that it's recognized there. And it's going to save that as a variable that can be used throughout the conversation. Or if it asks for my email address, it will identify that and then store that as a variable that we can use. And the other great thing about this is the concept or the ability of slot filling. So this is what really makes it sound like a more natural conversation, because you can just be talking to your bot, but if you provided the answer already to an upcoming question, it knows enough to be able to skip the question rather than repeating it for you. So it helps the conversation to flow a lot more naturally and a lot more nicer for the end user too. And I'll demo that in a bit to show you what that looks like in action. Oh, here we are, actually. We're up to the demo now. Let's go. So I'll go over to the topic that I've pre-created here. So in this case, I'm creating a chatbot that is going to collect information from a website visitor. Later on, this information I'm giving it, it's going to use it in a flow to post it as a Teams message. But over on the bot, what we have here, this one called inspection inquiry. So let's say we are a real estate company. We have this bot set up on our website. So in this topic, we want people to put down their details to let us know if they're interested in booking an inspection. We have some trigger phrases that relate to that. So I might come in and I might say, I want to book an inspection, I want to look at a house. It will direct all those people to engage in this conversation. So our authoring canvas, I'm going to go ahead and test it out. As I go along, you'll be able to see these variables and see it pick up on what I'm giving it in response to its questions. So if I go ahead and say I want to book an inspection, you can see it will go through these questions. At first, I'll do it by responding exactly to what the bot wants to ask me, but I'll do it again, which will demonstrate that slot filling capability as well. So let's say my name. I'm looking to buy, sorry, clicked rent there. These locations are actually set up as entities, which I'll show us in a moment too. So let's say Auckland. Let's say 5. So what you'll notice here is that eventually in the conversation, we've added this message that uses these variables that we've inserted throughout. So that's how we can take the information the user is giving us and then insert it throughout the conversation. So you'll see here it was able to pick up on what I said. And even here in this message, I said I wanted 5 bedrooms, but it's picked up on a number and it's identified that in my response. So just that thing about this custom locations I've created. What I did before is that I created a new entity here, and I created this one just to match some locations that I might use. We can also add synonyms as well. So perhaps if someone says that they're based in New South Wales, a state in Australia, they can also say they're based in Sydney. It will result in the same thing. So let's go back. I'll now show us how this works with slot filling. So let's start again. So let's say I want to book an inspection. I'll open that up again. Now, what's my name? Let's say Fred. So now let's say something like, I want to buy a Let's say I want to buy a 5-bedroom mansion in Sydney. And there we go. It's picked up on all of these variables already, which is typically how people, might be talking. Chances are they'll present all the info to you up front, but it doesn't need to go through and re-ask all of this again. And with those entities, even though I said I wanted to buy a mansion and I wanted it in Sydney, it still picked up on the right location name that I wanted to use, that I wanted to buy it as well, and the number of bedrooms that are there. So this is where it gets a bit more interesting, because we can now, I'll show you some stuff that we can do with Power Automate and this if we want to take action with our bot. So if you're not familiar with Power Automate, basically this is one of the tools that we have on the Power Platform for working smarter and working more efficiently. We can connect to the different systems and applications that we use and automate these manual tasks that we have. So with this, we can add flows, which are the processes that we build with Power Automate. We can add them throughout our conversations with our chatbots. So our bots can take action for us in the systems that we use. We can work smarter, cut down on manual tasks, and of course, makes this a whole lot more consistent for us as well. Over on that same topic, I'll continue to demo that one. Here's what we're going to do. So I've gone through and it's collected information from me. But we're going to bring in a flow now that's going to use this information and run a flow for us. In this example, it's a pretty straightforward flow. It's going to take my information. I have some conditional logic into there as well, and it will post it into a Teams message for us, into a team. So over here, I'm going to keep going. Let's say, where are we? Down here, is this information correct? We can say yes. What should we say? Let's say something. View, why not? Email address. So at this point, it's running a flow that I have built out. As the end user, as the customer, all I see is that I've given the bot my information. But now it's told me that it's gone ahead and it's passed it off over to our agents. But what this has actually done is that we've linked this up to a Power Automate flow. So I'll open up and show you the flow details here. So the flow in this case, it's going to first of all take the information that I provided to it. So when it comes to connecting flows with Power Virtual Agents, it will always have this trigger for Power Virtual Agents, and it will always have an action for returning values to Power Virtual Agents. So over in the trigger, we have inputs, which are the information that I want to use throughout the flow. And this links back to the information that I provided it as a customer. So things like name, location, email address, how many bedrooms. And in this example, I'm going to post a message to Teams. So I have this one that converts my time zone simply because in my message, I want to let my, let's say my staff know what time this was processed and what time it happened. Your actions can be whatever you want them to be though. So this is just one example, but there's really no limit to what you might want to run here. And then of course, in what application you want it to run into. So here I have it getting my time. I've added one to convert it to Auckland and Wellington time so we can get that posted locally. And I've added another thing here, which is a condition to tell me if the person was interested in buying or renting a property. The reason I've added this in is because it will depend on what team I want my message to be posted in. So in this case, if someone said that they were wanting to buy a property, we'll post this message to Teams and it will be in my buying channel that's there. I should have actually gone and showed you the Teams message first. So actually, this is what it did when I went and I ran that. Here we go. So this is the end result of the running of that flow. I really should have showed this to you before. So we have our team. We have this channel that I've set up, one for people interested in buying property, another one for people interested in renting. So then we know which one to direct it to, depending on what they're interested in. And it's gone ahead and posted this message for us here. So you can see a request for inspection has been submitted. That's using the name, the date and time as well that it was submitted. And over here, it's taken the information that I've provided to the bot and inserted it as the message. So then if we go and look at the back end of this, of what the flow looks like. So, you know, if I said I was wanting to rent, it would go ahead and post it in my renting channel. But we've inserted the inputs from Power Virtual Agents and anything else used throughout the flow as dynamic content that we can insert throughout the Teams message here. So what you need to do, basically what it does is when you go and you add an action, over here you have your options, which are flows that start with the Power Virtual Agents trigger. You can also, of course, go and create one from scratch from here to create your new flow. But what that does is once you've built your flow, over here you can then link up those variables your bot created over with these inputs that I've added here in my virtual agent. So this is what does the communication between those two things here and what links it all up. Over here, I have some other examples, which are some cool things I've been trying with Flow that you can do. So the first one was the demo that I put in the chat, but if you joined afterwards, I'll put it in the chat again. So this is one that I've tried out, which is using Power Automate as a calculation to automate calculations. So you can go and test it out if you want. That's the bot that I've made there. Here you can talk to the bot. It will tell you what your weight will be on Mars. So if you give it a number, it will then run a flow with this calculation and then return that back to the bot. Just to show you what it looks like, don't worry about writing this all down. If you're interested to have it on hand, I have it on my blog that you can either build, follow along with, or just check out for reference if you want to try it out on your own. Let's see, let me open it up. So yeah, if you're trying out the one that I put in the chat, then this is what the flow looks like. So we start off with the input the person gave us of their weight. We then have a couple actions here, which is going to run this standard calculation that we have. In the end, we want to return the result back to the virtual agent. So if your bot needs to go into your system or run some flow and retrieve something, send it back, then we would put that in as an output here for our virtual agent. Then the next one, I had quite a bit of fun with this Furby one here. I was trying to find a way to add images and GIFs into the conversation. This is possible using Bot Composer, which is sort of like the code, or you need to have a bit more technical knowledge to be able to use Bot Composer. If you want to add things like pictures and GIFs, things like that. But this is a simple flow you can do to make your bots a bit more interesting if you want to add in pictures and things like that are there. So in this case, basically, if you want to go and try it out, you just have a URL to the picture or the GIF. Just make sure that it's hosted online. And then in your return values, just using this markdown language, you can just insert the URL with the markdown language around it. And then that's how you get the bot to return your pictures or GIF. You can make your bot a bit more fun that way. So yeah, on my blog, which Lynn just posted, and I'll share some links at the end as well, can give you that in a bit more detail so you can have it on hand if you're trying to build it out. So then just as the last few things here, publishing out your bot. So once you're ready to let it loose, once you want people interacting with it, you can go and publish it from here. This is my right one. Nope, let me open up my other browser. Here we go. So every time you make a change to it, just make sure that you hit publish if you're getting people to use it. And then you can go and you can get the demo website, which you can send to people to try out. They don't need to be licensed or anything to be able to demo your bot. If you do it from here, you can also kind of customize what this screen looks like. So if you go in my bot that I posted as an example, I've sort of changed the conversation start a bit and the greeting that's there on the screen. So you can go and you can make it a bit of your own. So I've shown you Power Virtual Agents, the typical website that we go and we build it out. But the other amazing thing is that we can get all of this capability directly within Microsoft Teams as well. So in Microsoft Teams, we have the Power Virtual Agents app. You can go and try this out on your work accounts if you want to. If you just head over to Teams and if you look for Power Virtual Agents, you should be able to find it here. Unless, unfortunately, your organization has blocked you from using it, which wouldn't be much fun. But this embeds that same building experience directly within Teams. So what we can do, we can either build our bot from the website like I showed us and publish it to Teams, or natively build it here. And just within a couple of clicks, we have it shared across our organization with people and with our teams as well. But it's really the same building experience, just put into Teams, and this makes this technology a lot more accessible to people and a lot more easy for people to find it and start using it. So this here is one that I have built already that I have deployed to Teams. It can sit there in a chat with someone, kind of like how you might be talking to one of your colleagues, or you can also have it as an app that your organization to use, like how I have it down the side there, where you can pin it, people can go and talk to it at any point. But you can see here, it's like you're talking to a person. Last week was Microsoft Ignite. They announced a bunch of new features as well, some exciting stuff coming with Power Virtual Agents and Teams. So there's actually now this capability to send a proactive message to people in Teams. So you can set this up with the flow. Rather than someone going to the bot and talking to it, you can get the bot to send something to them first. So this is pretty new. I only had to go with it this morning. So I'm looking forward to explore that a bit more. And that's the capability that's now there as well. the analytics area, once people are off and using our bot, we get all these amazing insights that allow us to see how it's performing and then improve on it from there. Things like what the engagement has been, how many sessions it has, and then things like what's causing or what are the topics where people are getting the answers that they want. Where is it getting escalated to agents? Or the important one to look out for would be where are people abandoning the conversation. So we can get these insights over in the analytics area. Let me see if this one here is updated. This is a standard Power BI report, by the way, so from this particular view, we can't customize it exactly. But you can see here, we can see how many sessions were there. If we drill down into it, perhaps if we want to see where are people abandoning the conversation, it will then tell us what topics are causing this. So we can easily go into the topic and edit it and make whatever changes that we need from there. Customer satisfaction. So at the end of a conversation, you can put on this survey where people can rate it, rate out of 5 stars what they thought of the bot, and then you get that feedback from here. If you wanted to get a CSV export of the chats and the chat history, then you can go and you can download that from the sessions area too. So to wrap us up here, you're probably thinking now, how do I go and try this out? So one of the things that you can try is that on my blog, which Lynn posted, is that I have an exercise that you can follow along, which is the one that allows you to build the bot that's space themed to calculate your weight on Mars. So that was like a lab that I wrote that you can attempt, or there's also, I also have it on the community as well, where you can download it to try out as well. Or if you're just interested in the flow, let me go and I'll grab some links here that I have too. So I have a lot of fun with virtual agents. I'm usually trying to find some new cool things to see what I can do with it that I usually post on there. So if you go there, you can sign up for what's called a developer plan. They probably go on the second link that I posted. So the developer plan, it's like a free environment. Well, not really. It's connected to your work account. It doesn't expire. You get all the premium features as well. So if you sign up for the developer plan, you can go wild and build whatever bots that you want. And you can then publish it to the demo website or use them and move them across environments from there. So with this environment, it doesn't expire and you can really play around and build what you want from there too. The other thing as well is, if you're trying it out, you can also try it out with the Microsoft Teams app. That might be an easy place for people to start as well. But for reference, so yeah, on my blog, I usually post some PVA stuff. The second link was the exercise that I have if you want to try and build out the bot. And then the last one there was about how you can do that markdown language if you want to put images and GIFs throughout your bot, so make them a bit more exciting. So with that said, that was really the end of my session. I know Lynn posted my contact details in the chat before, but feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter as well. And I'm also active on the community forums that are there as well. So if you just look for the Power Virtual Agents community, I recommend checking it out as well if you're just getting into this stuff, because you have the experts on there all day to help you out and where you can ask questions on your building journey. So there's also like a bot gallery where people have filled out, or they've created bots. They've posted it there for you to go and download to see how they were made. So I will stay quiet for a bit, just to make sure if we had any questions that you guys wanted to ask. Otherwise, before that, I just want to thank everyone for coming along to the conference. This was the last session that is there before the closing one. So I'll be on there in about 15 minutes and looking forward to seeing you guys on there too. So thank you so much for coming along. Hopefully you've learnt a lot with Power Virtual Agents. If it's the first time you're seeing it, hopefully this excited you as well and you're keen to go and give it a go. And with that said, thank you for coming along. And yeah, we have the closing session coming up soon. So back to you, Lynn.
Thank you. That was a really great session. I learned a lot about
Oh, thank
Power
you.
Virtual Agent because I've never really worked it on hands-on.
Hope I've convinced you now.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, if anyone has a questions, feel free to unmute yourself and um, ask your question. Otherwise, we will be there in the closing ceremony in next 15 minutes.
Yep, sure thing. I'll just hang out for a bit in case we
Yeah,
had
let's
any questions.
just wait for like 5 minutes maybe. Okay, so I guess there's no question. Maybe we'll just wrap up this track and we'll join the keynote session.
Yep, sure thing. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, goodbye everyone.
See ya.
See you there.